Thursday afternoon. It's actually, we're pre-recording today. So I am Opal, as you already know. We're here for the Let's Talk About Ice show. We're actually live from Adelaide, and I'm actually sitting with my guests today, who will be, we'll be chatting right next to each other rather than through a camera screen. We're actually just talking about that. Do we look at the camera or do we look at each other when we're having this conversation? So we'll try and do a bit of both. But like I said, I'm Opal from the Let's Talk About Ice show, streaming live from Adelaide. We're filming on Thursday, the 22nd of November, just a few days before it actually goes to air. When it comes to air, it will hit you guys at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Time on the Tuesday night, which is, I think, 29th of November. So just one small bit of housekeeping. Obviously, we're here to talk about ice and the effects that it has on the community. Obviously, if you or anyone you know, or family members or extended people, whatever it might be, if any of you are suffering or need help around education, or obviously, advice with rehab and all those sorts of things, if you could please call the Australian Anti-Ice Hotline, which is 1-800-668-6423. That number again is 1-800-668-6423. So, before we get into it, firstly, this is Kris. Hi, Kris.
Hi.
I know you're a little bit nervous about being here. It's taking you
a little while to get out and telling my story in public.
Yep, absolutely. But, it'll be good. And the story that you do have to share is really powerful, especially in terms of, finishing your addiction and how you've recovered.
Yep.
And even 2 years along, just the change that I've seen in you and to where you actually are now. So the question that I first ask everyone that I talk to is, why is it that I'm talking to you today?
Well, because I want to help get the message across that there is hope for people to get through their addiction, and there's just not enough support for people who are trying. You know what I mean? It's like really hard to make something of yourself once you've already beat the addiction. Afterwards, that's where the support stops. Everyone's all about let's get you off it, but then once you get off it, where do you go? And people don't they don't give you chances, as we've discussed before. I've put so much work, not had any luck finding any, full-time work. So it's really hard, and I want to get that message across that people need to work hard, but also other people need to give people a chance. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. So as Kris and I have discussed, and we're talking about what we're going to talk about today, I think what we're going to do is break it up into a few little different things. Firstly, I want to ask, with your drug addiction, when do you think yours roughly started, and how long was it continued for?
Well, sadly, it started when I was very young. I was 17, and it continued right into my late 20s, and I sort of had it about a 3 or 4 year period where I got off it and then got back on it, and it's stuck with me until my late 30s, and right up till recently, it's only been a couple of years, so right into my 40s. So it's been a long traumatic sort of journey.
It is. When you say you had a bit of a stop there for a little bit in your early 20s, why did you stop? What was that associated with something in particular?
Mostly, sadly, it was just the fact that drugs stopped working. And so, I would have it and still sleep at night, not really feeling any effect. So, I just stopped because of that. So it wasn't really a choice. It was just the choice was taken away from me. Yeah. I would say that would be. So, I could paint it. I was doing great. But no, realistically, the second the drugs started working again, my addiction was there. I wanted it again. It was just the fact that it wasn't actually doing what I wanted back then.
Yeah. So were there, obviously, so when you say you had that break, you were still occasionally trying and stuff then?
Yeah. Over those 4 years, it was I had it once after 6 months, once I decided it was no good, and then about 2 years sort of thing, and that was when it started working again. I tried to resist, but straight back into it.
So with that as well, with that change, do you think it was the drugs change at that point in time on the market, or was it your choice of drugs change?
No, it was just the drugs on the market. It was I don't know if it was that transition between when it used to be speed and turned into this ice. You know what I mean? Like that. I don't know, but yeah, I hadn't changed my choice of drugs. It was just it had stopped working, where I couldn't, and I wasn't searching for it. You know, I wasn't actively in the scene or anything. So I only knew like one or two people, and it was all pretty much the same crap. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just that, sadly.
With that drug taking use as well, I mean, I know personally, well, Chris's wife like a few years back, which is why I am so proud of him now. But in saying that, could you explain to us just at what depths that drug use got to? At what depths did you go to get it? What did you forgo? Like, what has your circumstances been around chasing those drugs?
Yeah, well, for the first few years, I was actually maintaining work, and like, but I also was selling part time after work to, support my habit, and was using during my work breaks and crazy stuff like that. And that I managed to maintain that for about 2 or 3 years before that all come crashing down,
As it does.
and couldn't maintain the facade anymore. You know, like it was. And I no longer cared to. So then it was when I turned to the criminality. At first, it was just selling it to supply my habit, and then life changed, and like I tried to get out of all the scene, and that didn't work. So then I ended up with a different group of people, and I was like, doing other crimes and stuff to support my habit, and yeah, at one point I was even like growing marijuana to support my habit. So yeah, but every attempt, because of the gear being in there, no matter what I did, it always ended up come crashing down, and like it was a terrible roller coaster. You know what I mean? You'd have your highs, and then it'd all crash down again and lose it. Like I've lost everything so many times. Like it's terrible to count, and blown so many second chances. You know, when like I've been on the on the gear and got my stuff together enough to get a new house, and yeah, it was a long time. 30 or 27 years solid or something like that. Well, not solid, but like with only a few years breaking there. So yeah, like it was so many different. Like there was certain crimes I wouldn't do. Like I never would break into people's homes. It was always businesses and stuff like that. When I was actually got resorted to that, when I was sort of rock bottom, that was you go from being like a high level, more classy crime to you no longer care, you're on the streets, you just want food and drugs, so you just go and steal the basics. Yeah, it was a pretty sad road to go from being a full-time worker and selling it to someone on the street, just stealing to supply their like daily habit sort of thing. Yeah, it was pretty sad.
I just want to say something. When we talk about and we talk to addicts about these types of things and what they've been through and how they feel, it's actually it's really brave for us to be able to step outside of our comfort zone and come and do something like this. And as I'm sitting, actually, because I'm not used to sitting next to someone when I do this, I can actually feel your hesitation, your frustration, your just all those mixed emotions that you're still dealing with from the things that you were forced or you did do, and just how you actually feel inside.
Yeah, your choices are your choices are limited because you're not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
And your choices are limited because the good people in your life have all turned their backs on you for good reason, because you're in that self-destructive cycle. But see, that's another aspect we will need to talk about, is the fact that that's what doesn't help. That never helps. There is not one time that everyone turned their back on one person and they went, "Oh, I'm going to give up drugs." No, that's never, not once.
Doesn't work that way.
No, it sounds great, but it never works. But yeah, it's hard. But yeah, now I'm more comfortable enough to do it, and speak out about it. But yeah, like some of the things you do your best to forget.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's not like I regret anything I did, because I always made the best choices I thought I was making at the right time. you know, at the
Yep.
time.
Yep.
But of course, they clearly weren't. But yeah, like I never set out to ruin anything. You know, I always had
Yep.
different goals and plans, and it was never a plan to let my habit get out of so control that I lose everything and end up on the streets with destitute. That was never the goal.
But that's the thing. But, okay, yeah, hindsight one is a beautiful thing, everyone. But in saying that, not one single person wakes up clean and sober and says, you know what, I'm going to become a drug addict today and I'm going to throw my whole entire life down the freaking tube.
Yeah.
It is just not what happens. I mean, it's a gradual process. Sometimes, you know, there are periods, like you're saying, that it speeds up and it pulls back and all the rest of it. And sometimes you feel like you're catching your breath or you're getting back on top. But it's just this merry-go-round roller coaster that, you know, you just can't get off of unless you actually physically stop using.
Yeah.
Yep.
And want and recognize. You got to recognize that it is the drugs. You know, you can tell yourself, nah, it's not drugs. I'm better on the drugs. You can say all those little excuses to yourself. But at the end of the day, when you eliminate everything else and the only thing that you're doing wrong is the drugs, well, you can't go, oh, it's not the drugs. And that's what it comes down to. When you're changing your life and you're making all those steps, I imagine most addicts do everything they can the right way and leave the drugs to the last thing because they're trying to prove to themselves that no, it's not the drugs. You know what I mean? I'm sure that most addicts have that internal conflict where they're like, they straighten up everything and they're like, got everything, and cross every T, and in the end you'll find out it's the drugs. It's the drugs. You know what I mean? Get off the drugs and it starts working. You know what I mean? It starts working. Things start going. You know what? They don't go wrong anymore. There's none of these mass dramas where everything crashes down anymore. You know, you're not going back. So yeah, it's
See, I look at both of us, and you know, a couple of years back, neither of us had stable homes, stable environments, stable friends and people around us.
Good influences. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We just didn't have that support, even to find support in each other, in the sense of, you know, we met each other when we were at you know, the top of our addiction, we're probably at our worst. And you know, a few years down the track, to be able to sit here and to talk about this with the work that I'm doing and, you know, the work you've been doing and you know, all that sort of stuff, it's just remarkable in terms of you know, there's two people sitting right here right now in front of you, grand testimonies in the sense of what actually can be done if they're given the right opportunity, the right love, the right supports and the bits and the pieces around them.
And another reason I am also here, getting back to that, is if I had a service like what you are offering now, I imagine my journey would have been a hell of a lot better. You know what I mean? Like that's another reason for being here, because see, I made that long journey all on my own and had to lose everything so many times before I woke up to the fact that, and yet at the key time I had a few good people around me. But like we sort of made our own journeys, like you through here and your way to here, and me through my safe pets. They helped me keep me with my animal and get me a home and all that. So, but like it's a great service, and it needs to be.
That's the thing. I think you know, the Australian Anti-Ice campaign is an amazing foundation. Obviously, Andrea's amazing, and all the volunteers and everyone around here are just, you know, brilliant. You know, the fact that we can offer services like the buddy programs and all that sort of stuff to be able to help addicts, because it's not just you know, you talk about that mind, body, spirit, you know, healing, and it's not just about putting someone into, you know, your rehab and all the rest of it, and, you know, just solving some of those minimal social society problems around them. It's that constant support, which is what I do with the ARC, with the buddy program, but it's also what I do in my private work as well, and, you know, through, you know, my EAS, and really, like, the best people for it are people that have that lived experience, that become those amazing peer mentors, because we know what it's like, we know what we've all been through, we know how hard it is, and we know how we all tick too. And
you haven't read it out of a book, like, you know, you can like that. When you go to a counsellor and stuff like that, you could not relate to them because they're just sort of reading a script. You know what I mean? If he reacts this way, if he answers like this, then this is what's wrong with him. This is, and so that's always been a major obstacle with rehabilitation and stuff like that. I found as well.
Definitely. All right. Well, on to my next question then. So how long? Okay, hang on. For how long did you know that you wanted to get clean? And then my next question would be, how did you start making those changes to be able to start achieving in terms of where we're at now?
That's a good question. As in, maybe I think between 6 and 5 years, it would have been when I wanted change. I wanted to get off it, but I didn't see it as the whole problem. I just thought I needed to cut down, or I didn't see I had to get rid of it out of my life. So yeah, it took me about 4 years, 3 years to actually get to the point where I realized no, the drugs are the problem, right? And that's when I was started cutting right down, and sadly was moving around unstable homes, and that was the final straw. Being with someone who knew I wanted off it, and he wanted off it, but every payday he was straight on it, and I was on it with like he just throw me some, and I'm not going to say no, of course, right? So yeah, like I ended up leaving there and was going to lose my dog, and because and that was the trigger.
So would you say you were homeless?
Yeah, that I was no longer couch surfing. I had nowhere else to go. They were all bad drug places. Like when you're at that point, they're all sort of like drug houses, basically. So sadly, I made that choice to get away from all those drug people. And
sorry, slight technical issue. My dog's just hopped up and she's like wrapped herself around everything and was about to take it all with her. So apologies.
Yeah, that was when I made the choice to get away from the last of the places I had. That was a drug place, and I couldn't I went to get my animal into a shelter, and because I'd already done that once that year, they said to me, no, you got to give up your dog. And
your dog is your life.
Yeah,
I know how the two of them are close. Just
so yeah, it was
crazy.
It was a devastating moment, but I made that choice. I made the choice to give up the drugs.
Yep.
Because that was when Safe Vets come in and got me a home or motel. Sorry, but yeah, I was really emotional.
Emotional, of course it is. You're now living on the streets. You decided you don't want drugs, but you've got nowhere else to go. You've got your absolute love in life, which is your dog. You don't want to lose him, and you're told that you either give your dog up, or but that's just not an option for the only person that you have left in the world.
So yeah, they say
you're homeless. I've been there. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, they saved the dog and saved me because I made the change once they rescued my dog and kept me with him. I made the change, and that was when it began. It took about I reckon about 2 or 3 months after that to get completely off, because even once you have something like that, it's just so hard to break that actual mental addiction, and mind just get through the day. And so I probably in those first 6 months had 3 or 4 little stumbles, but my support group were really great, and they were like, as long as you're having more good days than bad days, that's a good win. So they weren't the sort of people that just said, oh, you can do this, you're never going to give up, so just keep, don't even bother trying. That they weren't like that, and that's what saved me as well, I think, because I would feel bad, but they also were like, don't feel bad, just do it again, motivate, go through the mental thing that you're only having it because you're scratching that mental itch that you can't break. It's not like so. Yeah, it took a little while, but yeah, after that, it was not smooth sailing, but yeah, like it just I barely think about it anymore. Like even in general, and wanting it. Like I haven't. I've probably in the last 2 years, I've only had one occasion when I actually felt like it. Not that I went out and got it or anything like that, but yeah, I had a bad day and just couldn't. Like, just a bad day, probably a bad week. Yeah, a
maybe month.
yeah, that just couldn't
Yeah.
shake that funk and almost fell back into that old habit even after 2 years straight. So yeah, it's not a forever battle, but it's something that will haunt you forever. You know, especially for me. It's not like I've only been using say for 6 years or 2 or 3 years. It was like more of my life. Yeah, more of my life than not. You know, I've been on drugs for longer than I've been clean in my entire life, and most of that was a child. Where you don't use drugs, right? So really, realistically, yeah, 90% of my adult life probably been on drugs. So yeah, it was a hard battle to break. But yeah, like yeah, without my dog, I don't know. No, I do know I would never have given up.
Yeah.
You know, like at that point, yeah, I was like, that's it. I was picturing having to go drop my dog off and going and getting drugs straight away. You know what I mean? That didn't matter like what I had to do if that would have been the first thing I did. So yeah, keeping me with my dog because I had nothing else, no family support, no close friends at that time.
Okay, thanks.
Or no, we were like.
Yeah, I was trying to get clean at the same time. So I used to come down and see you when you were in the motel.
We were like,
I
tried
to catch up as often as we could because we were two people trying clean at the same time. Absolutely.
We had our own, you were going through your own battles at the very time. So it's not like, but yeah, like like you did look after Buddy, but you couldn't, for a couple of weeks, and you destroyed like. All your garden and your underground watering systems and in a few days. No, yeah.
We survived. I loved having him.
But yeah, so sadly he's not something anyone can take on permanently because he's a very high needs dog, sadly. Like even when I was trying to get him into a foster home. Like when he needed it for when I was in between the house and all that. And like there was no one available. Like you needed a certain person like who could dedicate the but yeah, like it was.
Can I just say, Kris' beautiful blue healer he's deaf and he was also a rescue dog. So there's a lot of emotional behaviours which is beautiful for Kris or for anyone else. He's just not comfortable, and because he can't hear, you can't tell him or get him to do anything, and he doesn't respond. And it's like he almost knows if you are shouting at him, even if he can't hear, because he just notices that aggression or something. So he just freaks out. So,
and he has to be in the same room or in eyesight, like even if he's asleep, like I can walk out the room, and he knows. Like I get up and go make coffee, and he jumps up, and runs in. It's so great for you, but it's just amazing, like because he can't hear me. You know what I mean? He doesn't hear me get up, so obviously he just can sense, smell. I don't know.
No, there's senses. They talk about when one of our senses is missing, your other senses are. So I'm sure it's probably the same in dogs, but clearly he was your saviour because he was partly majority of the reason as to why you decided to get clean. Why you decided to do something, and why you continued on that path. So tell me next, what happened? Where did you go from there? Obviously, I knew you when you were in the hotel and stuff before that, but who helped you get to that point? I want you to talk about this lovely organisation that has helped you and how they help South Australians. And I think they're trying to go nationally in various things, but I'd like you to talk about these guys because these guys really help a lot of South Australians, a lot of people.
Well, she's actually an old friend of mine called Jennifer Howard, and she is a beautiful person. She started a charity called Safe Pets, Safe Families, and they help a variety of people, like not just people with their animals, people who are fleeing domestic violence, and now they've expanded into people who can't pay their vet bills. They fund that and they pay it back to them, and they'll fund it, and they have animal food, like they supply when people go get like food help as normal food help for humans.
Yeah.
They have dog food help banks now
Yeah.
at the same places. So, and yeah, they basically did a fundraiser on Facebook that the day that I found out I had to give up my dog. They did a fundraiser that day, and within 3 hours had $1,600 raised to put me in a motel, and then they got onto Junction Housing and worked closely with them to get me a chance because I'd lost my housing trust home. So yeah, I was already on a not a blacklist, but yeah, like on that list where not a very good client, like. So yeah, they worked very closely with them, and I did all the right things because I was given that chance. I went to any suggested sort of place to get help in those first 3 months. It didn't matter if it was help me or not. If anyone suggested it, I just did it to prove to them and to myself that I wanted to change. And like, if there was a chance, anything would help. I'd at least give it a chance, even if I thought there was no chance. You know what I mean? I would still go there and at least try. And yeah, they were amazing. They helped me with food and transport and so much. Like constant support as well. And yeah, they're just amazing. The work that yeah, I can't emphasize enough how great it was having their help because without them, yeah, my journey would have I hope maybe I might have turned around for myself, but I doubt it.
I have to say the work that Safe Pets, Safe Family does is just absolutely brilliant. I do know Jenny as well. We figured out that we were the same person when all that was happening, and when I think I met her first, probably not first, but the first time I met her was about 20 years ago, and she's much like us. Had that bad experience and went through the whole drug scene and all the rest of it, and lost her home to domestic violence and couldn't keep the pets, and that's how she has, a beautiful South Australian that has just created this amazing charity that we have here. Now, with that as well, there's some stuff happening with you and the whole Safe Pets, Safe Family. Do you want to tell us?
Yes, well, because of part of once I beat my addiction, we did like a little survivors sort of, completion of your journey sort of video, and they show it to their sponsors, and their sponsors and her suggested I become an ambassador for Safe Pets. So yeah, it's amazing, I whenever I talk about my journey, they always come up. So I guess I almost am an ambassador for them because just talking to anyone,
you are with where you're going and what's happening. You are.
They are a huge part.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that it's just amazing news. Like because I've been doing volunteer work with them and stuff like that. Because so yeah, that's a whole new part. And and another reason for being here is because I guess I have to start getting used to being like on camera and sharing my story because that's sort of what they would like me to do for them.
Absolutely, and it also allows you to step in your truth and hold that space for yourself and take your story to be able to help other people. So, that's what it's all about. But it's just as cathartic for us as what it is for actually everyone else.
Yeah. You like when you're helping out, and if even if the people don't feel like at that point that it's helpful, just when they're listening, and they might like think on it later on, like you know what I mean, when like it just makes sense, you know what I mean, like because it works, it might not work for everyone, but it works. So you tell your story and how you did it.
So in that respect, what other advice would you give to perhaps addicts that were contemplating giving up? What would you say, or even to yourself, if you could go back to your self when you were taking drugs, before you were contemplating or just before you contemplated, what would you tell yourself?
Just stop lying to yourself and face the fact that it's the drugs. Like you just go through that denial where you're like, no, it's just the environment, or it's just this, or it's just that, but you'll have like when you're actually cutting down, like when you're at that point and you're cutting down, you'll have a great week, and then it's payday, and then stuff screws up, and yeah, so you just gotta, yeah, it's that it's the self lying to yourself that you know what the problem is because you're already cutting back on the drugs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just about the money because if it was just about the money, you people. That's not an obstacle.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're already cutting back, you know what the problem is. Just accept it, and it's hard because it's all you know. But once you, and also get rid of the people around you. The ones that are using them won't. If they won't respect the fact that there's only besides you, there's only one other person from that knew me before I was in that I hang around regularly. He didn't. He would occasionally, like probably in say the 2 years I knew him, he probably smoked it once in that I seen him around at my house, right? Like he's sort of occasional social smoker, but he knew never to bring it, and he's never brought it to my house, never suggested it, never come around on it. So yeah, if those people won't respect you because you can't be around it.
No, you can't, not at all. And I think that's one of the big problems that recovering addicts are facing is just that loneliness, that emptiness, that you really don't feel like you have anyone that you can call on or speak to. What you thought was your support system is completely gone. And when you've already blown your whole support system before you started taking the drugs and you realise that it's not there, it's pretty freaking lonely, and there's not a lot of places to turn. But
Yeah.
but as you've said, like sometimes you will just have someone there, you just don't realise who it is. But apart from that, the thing is that especially with today's day and age, we're so grateful and so lucky that we live in this age where you've got organisations like Safe Pets, Safe Families, the Australian Anti-Ice Campaign. More and more people are becoming, recovery and rehabilitation coaches. There's, a lot of services that are starting to pick up that are, capable of helping people these days.
And
Whereas, even 5-10 years ago, they just didn't have the same, traction, or I mean, maybe they were there, but just not, I don't think as big or as many.
Wasn't focused on,
Yeah,
but it was more like an optional issue, you know what I mean? It was sort of like the icing on the cake, everyone's got bigger problems than worrying about that sort of thing, not realising the bigger problems are related to that.
Yeah. Well, it has become such a massive issue. Reports are saying, 1 in 4 through, Victoria, and South Australia is not too far off. And I know Andrea from AIC is always sending me stuff, and it is mind blowing in terms of the amount of people addicted, and in terms of people, it's always been stigmatised as that low socioeconomic, and as we both know, it's just not.
No.
Although it does often turn you into low socioeconomic, that's the problem. It's just.
And they're the ones getting targeted and taken advantage of because they normally are lower education, where the people with the jobs and a higher education aren't as easy to get taken advantage of because they know.
No.
And it's not just about the money. You can, if they come, even when they come into big money, the low socioeconomic people, they don't get moved out. They just
stay where they are.
Yeah, they just lose it quicker. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I've always believed education is the cornerstone of life. If you want to change the world, educate people. Educate and change things, and they can therefore, build and go forth. But unfortunately, we fail to do that in most society these days.
Yeah.
In saying that as well, with your recovery, what are some of the hardest things or barriers that you've faced through your recovery, or in the last couple of years? What are the hardest things you faced?
I guess would be the loneliness. Yeah, it's been trying to find constructive ways. For the first year of my rehabilitation, that it was just stay home, stay away from people as a general rule. You know what I mean? It was like going out was a mission.
Yeah.
I went out, I got this, If I was walking the dog, I walked the dog to somewhere and back. Like I didn't go and play with him in a public setting. You know, like there was set goals just to make sure I wasn't bumping into people I used to know who are on drugs and bad influences and getting invited over or them wanting to come back to my house. And that was another key rule is just banning anyone who's on drugs or has drugs on them from my door or ever. Like just don't come to my door, I won't answer it to you. And not answering, you know, that those were the two.
Sorry, that was definitely the horse, not one of us.
But yeah, those two were the first two major. He's saying hello.
Yep.
But yeah, they were the two hardest obstacles to get past because it's like, what you could do? You know, not like you can do much, but yeah, the people you used to just and hang out with and you know go chill with stuff like that are gone.
Yeah.
And then I guess there's also the fact that there's a lot of things you used to just do on drugs and you lose.
Yeah.
You know, you find you get off the drugs and you actually don't realise all those things anymore for maybe like for me it just reminds me of when I like was on drugs and I like with for example my PlayStation, like I used to sit there and play my PlayStation all the time. And now I never play it. It's, all it does is play my Netflix because every time I turn it on, it just sort of I don't get into it like I used to, and I don't actively think about drugs when I'm using it, but I assume it's the fact that I just it's not the same. You know what I mean? I got so used to being on drugs and playing games that now one without the other is no longer fun. You know, like so. Yeah, like there's been a few little things like that, but they're like that. And now it's trying to get into more work. Like I'm working part time as you know, doing support work for the ICU and that. And so, but yeah, it's beyond that. Yeah, you know, I've been applying for like 60 jobs in like the last 2 or 3 months and not had one interview. Like I've had one phone call about maybe getting an interview. And and I've been going for jobs. Like at first I was going for jobs that were decent paying, needed skills, and like after a month of getting no knockback.
Actually, a bit longer than that now, if we think about it, because I reckon you've been actively
4 months,
4 or 5 months,
But yeah, like after a month of that, it's like all right, you start going for those lower paid, unskilled jobs, and not even getting a call back for a cannery just sorting cans, and that was like, and even the work my worker from my job agency, even they were devastated for me, and they were like when I'm like, oh, this is just so, you know, killing my motivation, and they're like, yeah, I know, we can't believe it either, you know what I mean? Like because, and it's like I'm willing to travel, like I'm traveling nearly an hour to work, and getting up at like 5 a.m. some days, and not getting home till 6 or 7 a.m. with the extra travel and all that. So yeah, like it's not like I'm not willing to work, and it's not like I don't have any skills. It's just the fact that I haven't worked in so long because of the drug use, and on paper it doesn't. No one wants to employ someone that hasn't worked in 20 years.
You're totally right, and it's a recurring theme that I'm hearing from a lot of people that I work with as well. And obviously, we've had many discussions about it, which is why we've kind of do what we do, and I'm trying to help you, and I'll explain that in a minute. But the recurring theme is when you've had those gaps of employment or non-employment, and especially as an addict, or especially if you've had criminal convictions and stuff, and much like you've got those black marks against your name. No one's willing to give you a go. It's all right if your best mate just happens to own a business and you can go for him, but many of us don't actually have that opportunity. So it is something that I'm constantly coming up against, and like I was just talking to you earlier on. It was actually an even conversation I had with my own coach yesterday. We're talking about how drug addicts, former addicts, some of the biggest entrepreneurs that in life that you can imagine. Because if you think about it, we spent years trying to chase a drug, and to be able to afford it, probably ship it around, all the rest of it. We have such brilliant minds in ways in which we can overcome things. We obviously struggle with overcoming, the actual drug itself. But most drug addicts, ex-drug addicts, just have these beautiful minds that have so many skills that are transferable into everyday lives.
Managing markets and stuff, finding needs and wants and filling them, which are all applicable skills to everyday.
Exactly.
But
no one sees it,
Well, no one wants to put an ex-drug addict managing which is pretty much what they were doing, is managing a business, right?
But I mean, that just doesn't make sense. Purely because if you think about it, okay, anyone is just as likely to be able to rip someone else off. It's not just an ex-addict. But realistically, an ex-drug addict has so much empathy for what they've been through and what they've overcome, and how to talk to different people and the rest of it. Like they're the ones that we should be hiring.
I know. It's just that final part of the, I guess, social conditioning. People have been conditioned so long to believe the criminal and the drug addict, they're the bad men, like that. The use of liquor doesn't change the sponsor and stuff like that. It's so conditioned into us to just judge a book by its cover, even though we say don't judge a book by its cover.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, then tell me, or I already know, but so you actually you kind of work for me as my gardener, and I can't put the camera around it. He does a brilliant, amazing job. So obviously I'm on the NDIS because I am a disabled woman as well, and I have this amazing man here that just does wonders with gardens. In saying that, like you're venturing out into with my probably what I feel like is probably convincing you to and not giving you any other option. But you're venturing out into not just working for me and having a few hours here and there, but we're looking at launching a whole business for you, because you can't get work anywhere else. It's the only way you can. And in saying that, you're so well suited to it because, one, you love outdoors and you do a good job and everything, but you're so caring and compassionate with the people and everyone that I have around me, and that comes around you, whatnot. Like it's just beautiful to watch. So so that's where you're heading.
Yeah, because I had to get my own ABN and start my own business and getting financial counselling, because there was no work. It's so like I'm still looking for work to supplement income, but I'm trying to expand that now. And it's a long road, but that's my goal now, to expand that.
It's so exciting watching you though. Like literally, I mean, I know you say the same thing about me with some of the things that I've done in the last couple of years, and where I was to where I am now. But you were such a shy, quiet, timid person who you wouldn't even stand up straight or hold your head high. You always had your head down, you had your hair over your face. And to see him come out from, like he wouldn't even talk to a shopkeeper when, he handed over his money to buy something, to seeing him now and what he does and who he works with and who he's around, and just your social skills, your work skills, just everything. It's just so beautiful to see. Like the transformation is. If I'd met you now, I wouldn't have known about the last 26 years. Do you know what I mean?
And it's like you said, it's amazing to do it with a great person like you, because each time we speak and you're telling me about your new achievements, and like it sort of just gives you hope, and blows you away, because it's like, and like how you say what I've done blows you away. It's the same for me. It's like when I see this doing work with AIC and private work, expanding it blows me away. You know what I mean? And it's great. Having someone to
support you and believes in you.
Yeah, and he's on that same journey. You know what I mean? Like it just sort of, it's like you sort of push each other. You know what I mean? Like you know, it's not a competition, but you're like. You know, like you'll be having a rough week, and then like you're like, you know, I'll come and speak to you, and you're like, oh, like you've had so much great stuff, and it sort of just like get home, and I'm, you know, get a bit more motivated that week to get out there and make a bit more effort to change, because it's like, yeah, you want to make that person feel like you feel when you know when they tell you how like you know the things they're doing and how like blown away, like you know you want to sort of return that, you know, and like it's great.
It's just support. It's basic human needs, and unfortunately, the as ex-addicts, we probably need a little bit more at times because of where we've been and all the rest of it. But unfortunately, society just doesn't look at us the same. And you know, it's only through buddy systems and stuff like this. You know, when you meet other addicts, it's like as soon as I meet another ex-addict, it's like I don't want to let them go purely because like I know that I just know that they're going to need me, just like I'm probably going to need them, because it's that support network. It's, you know, you have these common themes in life that actually thread us together. And you're so much more understanding of people because you know exactly what they've probably been through.
And you know where they're at, and you can be comfortable around them. Like, you know, like that's another thing when you get comfortable around like the normal people, and you're like you're just having a couple of drinks with someone at a mate's house, as new mate, you know, because you make normal friends, and they like say something jokingly, and you like yeah, and they sort of like look at you like, I was only joking. Like, you know, you have those funny moments, but no, you have some good people, because like this lady was talking about the other day how like she works in a church, so they have sort of people come in, you know, talking about that, and she was like saying how her husband's a cook, and this other lady went, at first she was, oh, that's great, like he cooks your dinners and all that, right? And then like she was like, no, and then that lady looked at me and she goes, I bet you knew what I was talking about straight away. And I went, yes. But yeah, she said like when he first said it, that was what she assumed, because she had no context to when someone in that sort of the drug world says, oh yeah, my husband's a cook, it doesn't mean he's cooking your dinner.
No, totally understood. Totally understood. Well, is there anything else you'd like to talk about, or you know, anything in particular? Or I mean, I know there's so much more to you, but it's hard to get it out in an hour. But I think, you know, some of the main points that we talked about was you know, without harping on it too much, because sometimes people's stories can be quite emotional, and you don't want to bring up too much for them. We talked about that. We talked about, you know, some of the main issues which face you, which one of your big things was just that work and finding work, which is why you're, you know, on this path. And
so that's my next goal. Like you get off of it and you're just sitting around home, and like, you know, sadly everything you can't, you know, it's not free to do anything, you know, like you can go for a walk for free, but if you want to go places, it's not, you know, and do stuff. So like you're limited on what you can do, and so that was my next goal. But one of the things I'd like to talk about is the walking group through the walking group, because it's sort of part through Junction and part through the church, and
they've really helped you as well.
Yeah,
and like been a great support for you.
At first, when I got that thing, I was like, nah, like I remember I said to you, I was like, oh, I might go to this walking group. They suggested it, and the first 3 times I had to force myself to go, and then I missed the week and actually missed it. You know, I was like, oh, and it also led me to meet like the lady who runs the walking group. She started sort of seeing the journey I was on and helped me out with like, you know, little one-on-one talks, and started like, you know, bringing close in, because we talk about one of the things in the churches of large men. You don't get, and generally men's clothes, you don't get a lot of it in there, because men wear their clothes until they fall apart and then they're rags, right? And so she started helping me out with some clothes like from her family, because you know, had some men in their family. But like we were just talking, And so yeah, it just sort of. And now I went to another little. It was called the Walk for Hope, sort of a little event through that church that I found out about from this walking group, and it's really become like a big part of my weekly life. Like I try and always get to the walking group, and so yeah, like it. It's normal people, and I found what I found was it's comfortable because you only chat to people at the walking group. You know what I mean? Like it's not sort of like buddy like where you chat with them all the time. If you see them on the road and that, like you might just wave and say hello, that sort of. But yeah, like it was, and yeah, like I'm finding that the church is really good that way, like the social groups, like I resisted going to like they offered like the men's ones and all that. So but that would be something I would suggest to anyone in that recovery process.
So get into some churches, get into some
look at the
groups,
recovery
look
group,
at
what
what your local
activities.
communities have to offer, because it's those community grassroots events that really do keep us on our path. They give us that camaraderie and friendship. They keep us on our path. They make us accountable, don't they?
Yeah, and you
get exercise as well.
That's it. But yeah, it's the normal people, because like we're talking about that barrier of not being around people. It's so yeah, I would just suggest looking at your local church for activities and any other social groups. But yeah, like whatever. But yeah, getting around people.
Yep. No, you're right. Fantastic idea, and thank you for mentioning that, because it is obviously churches do amazing outreach and all the rest of it. Within the community, therefore, really, it's to help save the lost, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like I never really thought, like when I was doing it hard, it was mainly the churches for food help and any emergency sort of help, like with housing and stuff like that. You never really looked at the walking, or any of the groups. They offer all these like men's sheds and rah rah rah. And now I'm maybe thinking maybe I should have gone, or maybe I should have a look at them.
Absolutely. I mean, who knows what you can discover. And, so many different avenues and options that we just haven't even, most of us haven't thought about or even looked into. So, yeah, totally right. Totally right. Well, in saying that, my timer is about to go off, because I set a timer today, because don't even ask me about my last pre-recorded interview. We're not even going there, but thanks to the lovely people from AAIC, it was downloaded and changed and cut out a little bit of the interview, but I don't want to go down that path again. So
we'll cut it a little bit short.
Yeah,
a little bit long.
And then I don't get into trouble. Absolutely. So any final words or last things you'd like to say? I mean, I'd like to say just how proud of him I actually am, and I didn't think that he would never not be able to do it, but just to see where he's come from, what he's been through in the last 4 or 5 years, and the fact that he's standing and how strong and tall he's standing is just truly amazing. So there really is something to giving addicts a go, to giving them that space to be able to grow, to recover, and giving them a go in every aspect of life, because as you know, obviously jobs are an issue and so many other issues we face. But sorry, I did cut you off. So anything else you'd like to say?
Don't give up on yourself, and don't give up giving up. You know what I mean? Like if you want to give up and you fail, you didn't fail, you just had a bump in the road. Like
you just found another way of not to do it.
Not to. Like people fall off the wagon all the time. Like the expression with the alcoholism, that's because it's a long road. You don't just throw away like that wagon just because you fell off it. You jump back on it, and just believe in yourself that you're worth it. So many people told me that, and you don't believe it, but you deserve it. You don't have to destroy yourself.
You do. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I do appreciate it. So if there's any questions, guys, when this goes live, just post them. happy to answer them. And if anyone wants to get in contact with Kris, just let me know as well. Obviously, my name is Opal Adamson, but on Facebook it's Opal Eglite, EGLITE. Just the housekeeping again. Obviously, if anyone is needing education, or if there's anyone that is needing help around addiction, if you could call the Australian Anti-Ice Campaign on 1-800 668 6423. That number again is 1-800 668 6423. They obviously have a number of people in each and every single state here in Australia now, ready to be able to help out in, whether it's to speak in schools or whether it's for a buddy system for individuals. So please just get in contact, get some help, because it isn't easy. You can't do it on your own. You need people and you need support around you. And they're just the most amazing organisation in being able to do that. All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. And this is the start of your journey, and where you're going next. And I'd love to check back in with you in the future years' time, and be able to discuss everything that we've still been through in the next year. And because we're still dissolving and getting through stuff ourselves, like it does take a long time. But thank you, appreciate it. All right, thanks everyone. Much love, and see you next time.
Bye.